Hey guys, it's Nathan from Arms of Ilum. I promised you guys in the last video that I would have more videos sooner than this. I'm here again to apologize. I know it seems like it's been forever since I had a saber build to show off, and that's because it frankly has. I hope you don't mind the new, well, I haven't really decided if I'm going to stick with this, but the new backdrop here, a new environment. Working on a few things here in order to make the videos a little bit more visually appealing, and to show off in the background here some of the things I'm working on. Speaking of things I'm working on, this build took a long time. It actually, the saber itself didn't take very long, but there were some. It was kind of waiting on a few things that I felt like were necessary for what makes like a good overall presentation for somebody who's buying this. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Saberforge Heretic. It's an Apprentice saber from Saberforge, and this one, like I said, it's been done for a while. I've had this build complete for probably almost a year. What that means is that it's been well tested, but the reason that this build was held up had nothing really to do with the saber itself. You see, when I first got this saber in, even though it is a Saberforge, a Apprentice saber, I wanted to do something a little bit more with it. So I figured we'll do the saber build. I didn't do any additional weathering or anything much to the saber, but I did want to ship it with a new stand. Now this is my basic Saber stand, and you'll get a closer look at it in just a moment. But before I get too far into this, why don't we just dig in? So when I first picked up this saber, the one thing that really spoke to me was the Old Republic vibes I was getting from it. I know that technically the Heretic is somewhat loosely based on the Starkiller saber from the Force Unleashed, or one of the Starkiller sabers from the Force Unleashed, or promotional posters. But for me, this also, if you got it weathered like this, and with the Stingray bronze grip or whatever Saberforge calls this, it certainly to me had a feel, kind of an Old Republic feel. So with that in mind, that was kind of the overall driving force behind the decisions that I was making going into this. So as you can see, this is a weathered Heretic from Saberforge. Again, it's one of their Apprentice sabers, and I've done a few different things to it to make it a little bit unique. The first thing is the copper switch here. This is from Motley Mods on eBay. There are a number of different sellers who have these now, but they're fantastic momentary switches with a tactile feel that really combine everything that I like about a good switch. They really are my favorites, and the copper color is just fantastic. Behind that is a Switchcraft 2.1mm recharge port. Now the holes in the hilt here are intended for a panel mount 12mm recharge port, the plastic variety that Saberforge uses. Those are fine. They're fine for a build like this, where you've got an in-hilt LED, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But the problem with them for higher current builds is that they actually do have more resistance, more internal resistance than the Switchcraft, which means if you're going to be doing a NeoPixel build, they aren't really advised. They'll work, especially if you're not doing like three-strip NeoPixel build, but they do have a little bit more internal resistance, so I prefer the Switchcraft, and I've created a 3D printed adapter that allows the Switchcraft ports to fit into these 12mm switch holes. So it is a little bit of a departure there as well. So let's talk about the internals. At the front here we have a Tri-Cree RGB LED, which gives us color mixing. Inside the hilt, and we'll go ahead and open it up, we have my Saberforge NEC-FB chassis for fixed battery, and of course an NEC board. This is the Spark 2 R4, so you can kind of get a sense of when this saber was built. It's been a little while since I finished this, and it is running a slightly older board. I will say that the Spark 2 R4 is a huge improvement over the R3 in terms of motion sensing. Obviously the Spark 3's got better, and now Naigon has released his real swing algorithm, which is not compatible with this particular board, but you know, this is still fantastic. It is a huge improvement over the R3's, and does everything we need it to for this particular hilt. Underneath the board we have an 18650 lithium-ion battery. This is a 2400 milliamp hour Trustfire cell that has been rewrapped to kind of match the hilt a little bit better. I don't like having that battery branding visible when the saber is really at any point, so you have that there. And then at the rear here is a 28mm Veco based speaker, so just the standard speaker that a lot of people have been picking up from the custom saber shop for years and years. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of a tight fit there due to some tape I added to snug things up, but then we'll just pop that pommel back on, and there you have it. As I said in the opening, this will come with, and this saber is for sale as of filming here. That's hopefully likely to change very soon. Hoping that we'll find a buyer for a new home for this guy very soon, but it will come with this new stand as well. This is what I'm calling my basic Saber stand, or at least that's the name. We'll call that the working title right now. I don't really have anything better than that at the moment, but it is kind of inspired by Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, and some Sith temples I've seen, which kind of goes with this particular hilt. I know I mentioned in the opening that this hilt is Old Republic themed, or I'm kind of got an Old Republic vibe from it. This is the way I thought of it, an Old Republic Sith style saber, so you will see that in the fonts and the blade colors that we show here in a moment. So let's go ahead and do that demo. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I've attached a Vader's Vault double fused blade here. This saber will not ship with the blade. That's kind of a new thing that I'm unfortunately doing, because I was using the Ultra Saber's mid-grade grab bag blades that they offered. The price went up on those. They're not like the best things in the world. They're fine, but the price went up on those. They cost more to ship. So this saber will, when it's sold, just be the hilt and the stand that I just showed you, and then I'll leave it up to the buyer to pick whatever blade they prefer. My recommendation for an in-hilt LED like this is still the Saber's Starlight blade. It's currently, my opinion, just my opinion, the best blade out there for display purposes. If you're into dueling, I'm personally not, but I know that there are some other options that I would consider. Potentially something from Vader's Vault in that case, because the Starlights aren't great for dueling. So, like I said, this won't come with the blade, but we're going to show it with the Vader's Vault blade here for demonstration purposes. The first sound font that we're going to hear on this saber is Dark Apprentice. It is by Naigon, and it is inspired by Darth Maul's saber in the Phantom Menace. So you should notice some of those quick swings, a fairly stable but aggressive hum, and yeah, overall it's a great Sith style font. It doesn't necessarily like pigeonhole itself into a Darth Maul sound like some fonts do. So I think it's an overall really nice Darth Maul, well, really very nice Sith inspired font. So let's go ahead and hear that boot up sound for it.
After 1,000 years, Korriban is ours again.
And it's a little quiet. I believe I have the sound turned down on this Saber because, like I said, I have been kind of testing it a little bit. When my son has his Saber out, I'll bring this one out occasionally just to make sure it works. It hasn't been beaten on or anything like that, but I do like to test my Sabers before I ship them out. So that's the boot, and it's obviously from Shamim's. Actually, it's from Shamim's boot sound package, and it is from the Old Republic. So let's go ahead and boot this guy up. And you can see that this first blade color is a nice indigo. I know that the lights in the background here probably are washing things out a bit, but you can see if I stick it in one of these compartments here, just how that has a nice purpley blue hue. Something that I really liked in the Old Republic video game was the Sith with the purple lightsabers, and especially these darker indigo tones really spoke to me in that game, so we're going to go with that here for this first font. And you can hear quick swings. Overall, a pretty stable sounding Saber. And a white flash on clash on this guy. So just a dramatic white flash on clash. Quick clashes with a little bit of stutter on each one. Again, back to the swings. Lockup can be triggered by holding down the button and then triggering a clash. And there you have it. Let's go on to the next font. Hold down the button to deactivate the Saber. The next font is, I'm gotta try not to get things confused here, is the Dark Order, and that one is by NineVoltNinja. Sorry, I had to look it up. NineVoltNinja did this for NEC to be one of the igniter sounds that the board ships with. So it's a font that the igniter ships with, and it is inspired by Kylo Ren. So it is an unstable sounding Saber. Very different from the font we just heard. Oops. It would help if I actually turned to it. A little bit rusty here. And there again we have the Old Republic style boot sound that I pulled from Shamim's package. And you can hear it's very unstable. And this one actually shows up much nicer on camera. It is an orange blade, kind of a creamsicle, maybe a little bit more of a burnt orange appearance in person. Very nice orange, very bright for an orange. They tend to be kind of a muted appearance because they are close to that red, which just naturally isn't quite as bright. But this does look very bright, especially with a well-diffused blade like this. And you can hear totally different swing sounds than what we just saw with that Maul-inspired font on the first bank. This is long, powerful, purposeful swings that have that flutter and instability that we hear in the hum. Clashes are very, very brief, very staccato sounding clashes that have some power behind them, and then obviously have that staticky sound behind each one of them. And this, for this Saber, for this font bank, we have kind of a yellow-green flash on clash. And I don't know if you guys are picking that up, but and then you can see it here much better because I used the same color for the lockup. And you can hear that lockup is very staticky, very unstable, and it's reflected in the blade here. So, let's check out this final font. The final font on this Saber is my personal favorite, or has long been my personal favorite, and that's Vader 1 by Lord Blako. I've always, ever since he released this font, I've been in love with it. I'm a big Rogue One fan, first of all. Darth Vader is easily my favorite character in the entire series, so anytime I do a build that's dark side themed and I need kind of an extra font to throw on there, I head over to Saber Font, buy this font yet again. So Lord Blako has gotten my money numerous times on this for various builds, but I just love the sound of this font. So let's go on to it. I added the Vader breathing boot sound. It's a little bit different from what Lord Blako ships this font with, but I think that the breathing sound, let's go ahead and trigger it again, followed by an ignition, and in this case a hum that has the music layered into it. That's one of the cool things about the NEC boards, is that the way the hum's handled, you can layer in music with it because it continues to play when you trigger the clashes, so you don't have that disruption that you previously would have had with some of the older Plector Labs boards. That's changed with the Crystal Focus 10, but the Nano Biscottis and stuff, they have integrated hum into the clash sound, so you would get some interruption there and it wouldn't sound quite right. When you boot this Saber up, you do kind of have a little bit of randomness that you're going to get there. You've got so this time we booted up again, and again we got the music from the film, but that's not always going to happen. And here we just have the hum. So it is randomly chosen by the board. It just picks one of the hum files prior to boot, and I think it's cool. I think that there might be it may be a case where the ultimate buyer of this Saber would prefer to have it be a little more consistent, so they may move some sound files around. But I like that that is an option, and that the music sounds awesome. It just, especially because it's layered in with the swings and with the clashes, it plays in the background. It sounds just like it does in the film. So in this, I went with, again, a white flash on clash. With Vader you have some options because, but depending on the film, the flash on clash has been white, it's been yellow, it's been kind of a green. It just kind of depends on the film, so you have some options there. I like the white though because it is so dramatic. And if we had the lights off here, you would just see how that pops when those clashes are triggered. Again, as you would expect, this is a red blade. And in this case, I do believe that on this, looking at this, I do believe that this has a deep red, I should have mentioned that in the previous segment, a deep red Cree LED in it to give it a much richer red when you have this red blade active. So, something that I like to add if I'm planning on using a red blade is that deep red, because it is so much purer on camera and in person as opposed to the regular kind of orangey red LED. So again, Vader's just signature swings. Got that flutter, especially on those quick swings. It just sounds fantastic. I really love this font. I've said it probably a million times thus far, but it is really, really great. And again, there's our lockup. Nothing too special about that, but again, it does the job. Give you a few more swings. And as you can see, just the sensitivity of this board as compared to some of NEC's previous soundboards is just much better. That true swing, I believe is what he calls it, algorithm, just works 100 times better than what he was previously using on these Spark boards. So, not a new board, but it obviously sounds fantastic. Alright, and there's one more thing I'm going to show you here, and that is the Saber Tracks. NEC boards come with, all of the NEC boards have what's called Saber Tracks, and it is basically allows you to play music on your Saber. So on this hilt we have just one track, and that is the Imperial March. I like to include it on any kind of Sith style sabers. It sounds awesome. So let's check it out. Saber Tracks. And there you have it. You can light the blade up and just feel like generally like a badass while this is while this is playing. It sounds great on these speakers, especially when you turn them down a little bit so you don't get quite as much distortion. So, go ahead and turn the blade off by holding down the button. And we'll go back to our first font bank there at Dark Apprentice. Alright guys, so that's basically it. That's pretty much a full rundown of this Saber. As I mentioned, it will be for sale. I will put a link to that listing in the description below. Hopefully it doesn't last long. But like I said, as of posting, this Saber is for sale. If you have any questions about this, be sure to let me know in the comments. I hope to have another video coming up very soon. You can see that I have a Black Series Graflex style A New Hope Luke Skywalker lightsaber that has been converted to NeoPixel with a Spark 2 R4 as well, I believe. So this is complete, or almost complete. Just a few external details to add to this, so it should be following this up really quickly. But again, I promised that last time, so we'll just have to see. So thanks guys for watching, and may the Force be with you.